YouTube, Shaddoll is here, and it is top tier. Alright, so I'm going to go a quick overview of the deck. We're going to get into some replays. Yeah, and I'll explain to you how the deck works. Alright, so first, a little bit about the deck's history. Shaddoll came out in Duelist Alliance format, which was in 2015, introduced into Shaddoll, Burning Abyss, Cleat Fort, and Teller Knights. So those were the 4 decks that were currently met at the time. It is a fusion-focused based deck that attempts to either extend using Construct or set up Window and floodgate your opponent. Okay, with that being said, I did really well with Shaddoll back in 2015. I did really well. I started topping Dueling Book, like top 100, somewhere around there, top 100 on Dueling Book. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do really, really well with Shaddoll. Okay, so let's go over the deck list. First things first, we're going to go over the Shaddoll monsters. So basically, what you need to know about the Shaddoll monsters is they have 2 different effects. One when sent to the graveyard by a card effect, and one when flip face up, or flip summoned. And you can only use one of those effects per turn. So, for instance, if I use the first effect when flipped, then I don't get the second effect when sent. If I use the effect when sent, then I can't use the flip effect that turn. So keep that in mind. It's like Thunder Dragons with Thunder Dragon Hawk. And also the Shaddoll monsters need to be sent by card effects, so cards like that sent by cost, Karma Cut, etc. will not work. Okay, so basically, Wendy allows us to summon out of the deck when she's flipped face up or flip summoned. Also, when she's sent by card effect, we get to special summon a monster face down in defense from the deck. So basically, she does both. She's a psychic. Yeah, and she's a Shaddoll, so she's absolutely fantastic. She allows us to extend, which is really good going second into like Live Twin, because you want to be able to like summon multiple bodies on the field, and it makes it harder for them to OTK. So yeah, definitely 3 of her. If you have 2, you're fine. So like if you're on the budget and you have 2, that's okay. 2 Shaddoll Dragon. Shaddoll Dragon, when sent to the graveyard by a card effect, will pop a back row. Also, when sent to one flip face up or flip summon, will bounce any monster on the field to the hand targeting. So if they have a Kluger, yeah, yoink. If your opponent has a Shaddoll Fusion, you don't want in the graveyard, yeah, yoink. Very, very good. Into the extra deck or into the deck. So it's basically a compulse when attacked or flipped. And when set by a card effect, you can pop a back row, which is really good against Cracked Out going second. Next, we have Shaddoll Squamata. You can play this at 2 or 3, but Squamata is really, really good because when Squamata is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you get to send one monster, one Shaddoll card, not monster, one Shaddoll card for your deck to the graveyard. Also, when flip face up or flip summon, gets to destroy one monster on the field. So this card is really good because when you set this over Wendy against Live Twin, if they pop it, you could send another Wendy to the graveyard, trigger that Wendy, or you can set this against Live Twin, and if they happen to attack, you get to pop a monster in the field, which probably won't happen, and probably more send this to the graveyard. And on top of it, if you send this to the graveyard turn 1, along with your main construct line, you can activate this and potentially get Wendy and Schism set up, so that's really, really good. Next, we have Shaddoll Hedgehog. When flip face up, add a Shaddoll spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That is not Sinister Shadow Games, that is not a Shaddoll spell or trap. You basically add Shaddoll Fusion, Shaddoll Schism, or El Shaddoll Fusion. Also, when sent to the graveyard by card effect, you get to add a Shaddoll from your deck to your hand, which is really good with Dino Mishkis, because Dino Mishkis sends from card effect, not as a cost. And because it sends for card effect, you get to trigger all your Shaddoll effects with it, so this synergizes really well with Dino Mishkis. Next, we run 2 copies. You can run 1 if you want of Shaddoll Falco. When sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can set it face down from your graveyard, and when this card is flip summoned, you get to special summon a Shaddoll from your graveyard and face down defense. So this is a really good way to swarm the field. On top of that, we are playing our Shaddoll Fusion spells. We play 3 El Shaddoll Fusion. This card is fantastic because it's a quick play spell, so you can use it to make Window on your opponent's turn if you're not using Schism. And it's also really good if your opponent plays through the Window. So for example, with Tenyi, if they go for shoot it, bounce the Window, then we can use El Shaddoll Fusion again on the opponent's turn to make Window anyway, and lock them out of the special summon. Now, what's also really good about El Shaddoll Fusion is we can use it on our turn during the battle phase to like extend and threaten lethal through multiple bodies. Now, this is really good because if you swing with like a dragon and another Shaddoll, and you haven't used Dragon's effect yet to pop a back row, if they activate anything, then you can chain Shell Fusion, fuse those two monsters off that you have on board, make it, and then trigger the Dragon effect in the graveyard. Now, keep in mind when you Fusion Summon, this goes without pretty obvious, but I'm going to go over it anyway. When you Fusion Summon, they are treated as sent to the graveyard by a card effect. When you fuse off monsters, they are sent to the graveyard by a card effect, as with Tier Element. However, something here, what's very important, is that, like I said, when you fuse off by a card effect, you trigger all your Shaddoll effects. So really, really good. El Shaddoll Fusion, definitely want to play at 3. Now, I know everyone's looking at Relona and saying, oh my gosh, I don't have 3 Magistas, is there anything I do? Yes, you could play a card called Nev Shaddoll Fusion. Nev Shaddoll Fusion is the equipped normal card in the deck, and that allows you to change any Shaddoll on the field to any attribute and then fuse with it. So that's a way, free-to-play way you can make Construct, but this card is a lot better. But if you're free-to-play, you can definitely make that work. So Relona allows you to, on summon, add Magista's Invocation for your deck to your hand. Now that makes 2 fusions in the deck. That makes all of our Shaddoll fusions plus Iris if we really want to. I'll just explain how this works. Basically, on summon, what you need to know is that you summon her and then you can, add your Magista spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And I'm going to go over exactly what you're going to add. On top of that, you're playing Magista's Invocation. This card fusion summons a fusion monster from hand or field, as long as one of the monsters you use is a spellcaster's fusion material. Every Shaddoll you have is a spellcaster, but Wendy and Relona is a spellcaster. So, as long as you use Relona and anything but Wendy initially, as long as you use Relona and anything but Wendy as one of the materials, that's fine. You could use Wendy as the second material to make a construct. You are totally fine. So, Magista's Invocation, really, really good. So, example plays, you could summon Relona, add the Invocation, then use Relona and Wendy to make construct, or use Wendy plus another Shaddoll and to make, like, I don't know, Winda. So, yeah. So, really, really good. We definitely play this at 1 or 2 copies. On top of that, we are running our third fusion spell, which comes with the skill. So if you don't know what Shaddoll Weaving Power does, is it allows you to, Shadow Weaving Power, allows you to put 3 Shaddoll Fusions, a Schism in the deck, and a Wind in the extra deck. So the other spells we have are Shaddoll Fusion. So Shaddoll Fusion allows us to, it's a crazy fusion spell, that if our opponent controls an extra deck monster, we can send any monsters from our deck to the graveyard to make the fusion. So, for example, if we have like a construct, we can send a Shaddoll and a light, all from the deck. So all the fusion materials can be from the deck, which is absolutely insane. Now, keep in mind, as with Lunar Light Fusion, if your opponent activates a Book of Moon and books their monster, it will not resolve because they don't have an extra deck monster like a Seeker or Exceed. Obviously, they can't book a Link, but something they can technically do is like activate a Compulse on a Link and bounce it back to the extra deck. And then after that, then, you can't fuse. So keep that in mind. Alright, so as long as they have an extra deck monster, fuse from the deck. Otherwise, it's going to force you to fuse from the hand. So, really, really good. You can only activate 1 Shaddoll Fusion per turn. Then we have Shaddoll Schism, which allows us to banish any amount of Shaddoll from the graveyard. We fusion summon a Shaddoll monster from our extra deck by banishing fusion materials, not Shaddows necessarily, but banishing fusion materials listed on it from the graveyard. Also, keep in mind your fusion cannot attack directly. Do not forget this, because it's very easy for 3 to 4 turns forgetting that you summoned it off Schism. But if you summoned off Schism, it cannot attack directly. Okay? So you might want to link it off later on. However, this could allow you to summon Wind on the opponent's turn, and that's the main combo. Also, if you could send 1 monster in the same attribute as the monster you fusion from the field to the graveyard when you use this. So for it, one thing you need to know is that your opponent has to respond to Schism. If they want to protect their monster, they have to stop Schism. Once the monster is fusion summoned, you can't do anything about it. Then you non-target send their monster to the graveyard. This is very good against Constello. If they summon out their Rashalog or their Sombra, then you activate this, make the construct, and bang, send their Sombra to the graveyard. This is also really good against Tenyi. Because what you want to do ideally with Winda is Winda's a floodgate that doesn't allow you to special summon more than once. But if they activate the effect of special summon and Wind is on the field on Chain Link 2, then they won't be able to special summon because Wind will already be on the field for their first summon that they activate. So, for example, if they go into, they activate Ashina, right? So you set your Schism, and the first thing to do is go Ashina, right? The common 10 you play. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to flip your Schism, then activate Schism, summon the Winda, and then Winda hits the field, and then when Ashina comes out, they can't summon anymore. So they can't link in the Monk, and then activate their Vessel or their Circle after that, and do other plays. So they're locked out of it. And you'll see a funny replay that kind of comes into it. So really, really good stuff. So Schism is very, very powerful. Now on top of that, we are running our tech cards. So we're playing, Super Poly is a fusion card as well. I don't really need to go over how crazy this card is. It's crazy because we have so many different attributes that we can fuse with. So we can pretty much, this card is almost always live for us. So really, really good. We run 2 Dynamishkis, 3 Crackdown, and 1 Sinister Shadow Games. Now, Sinister Shadow Games, I did not go over this. This card sends a Shaddoll card from the deck to the grave. Then change any number of face-down Shaddolls to face-up defense. So if you have a set Shaddoll and you open this, then it's a disruption. So like if you open up Dragon or Squamata and you set it, or you just set it off Wendy, and you open up your Sinister Shadow Games, you can flip it up on your opponent's turn. They get a bounce and a pop of a monster based upon what monster you set. This is really good when you have things like Wendy. Also, then sends a Shaddoll card from your deck to the grave. So, what you can do is, if your opponent does nothing, let's say they summon Kluger, right? Not does nothing, but summon Kluger and set a back row, right? And you have Dragon on the field. Then what you can do is activate your Sinister Shadow Games in the end phase, flip up Dragon, and then maybe send like a Hedgehog to the graveyard to get its effect, or another Wendy to summon again, or if your opponent doesn't summon like a Kluger, they summon like a Neos and set like 3 back row on like turn 2. Then what you could do is in the end phase, activate Sinister Shadow Games, flip up Squamana, pop the Neos, and then send a Dragon to the grave and pop the back row. So very, very good. We definitely play this at 1. Some people play it at more, but I like it at 1. Alright, for the extra deck, we're running 2 copies of El Shaddoll Construct. This card is absolutely incredible. This is the best. This does everything for the deck. So it takes a Shaddoll and a Light, must be fusion summoned first. Be fusion summoned. Must first be fusion summoned. Meaning when you see must first, that means if you initially fusion summon and it's summoned correctly, then you can revive it from the graveyard afterwards. So if you correctly fusion summon it, then afterwards you can revive it from the graveyard. And that comes up with Shadow Falco, where I told you could revive a Shaddoll face down. Next, on special summon, so very important. If your opponent has if you have like a Call of the Haunted, you're not playing Monster Reborn because you're playing Limit to 1 Super Poly, but if you had anything that revives it and face up in attack position, on special summon sends a Shaddoll card from the deck to the grave. So being card, you could send out any of your fusion spells or traps, and then you can also send a Shaddoll monster. So very good at triggering the effects. Also at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, destroy it. So know that it says at the start of the damage step. So if you battle with anything that would occur at the start, it's a little bit faster than Caduceus, because Caduceus occurs at the end of the damage step. But what's nice about this is when you battle a special summon monster, go ahead and pop it. So very, very good. I also believe the Ultimate Nightmare is special summoned by the skill, so it would be able to pop it. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, most of the time that works. But this also helps get over bigger beaters that you necessarily wouldn't be able to get over otherwise. On top of that, we're running 3 copies of Crackdown, like also Dark Destroyer. This is also about Dark Destroyer in some way. Okay, on top of that, well, not Crackdown. On top of that, it has one other effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, target 1 Shaddoll spell trap in your graveyard, add to your hand. That last effect applies to all the Shaddoll fusions. So no matter if you use Wendigo, Gristle, Winda, if any of them are sent to the graveyard by any mean, even for the extra deck, like if they go Silver Rocket and rip it out and send it to the graveyard, you could still use the effect, add it back, a Shaddoll spell trap. So that's really good. On top of that, we're running Iowis, and I told you about this card. This card is really good because it's another fusion with target with Relona. So if we open up Relona and we already have like Schism, then we can go this route and use Relona to fuse off a Shaddoll, because it takes any spellcaster, and then we make Iowis, and then basically this is a walking Crackdown. We can't activate the opponent's monster effects we steal. However, what's nice about this is if we steal their monster, then just another form of interruption we can have. Wendigo is kind of one of the weaker ones, but it's a Wind Super Poly target. It allows us to basically make ourselves indestructible by battle once per turn. Any monster we control So that's like one of the weaker ones when battling a special summon monster. So your opponent's special summon monster attacks you, then you can make your summon indestructible battle. I think it's like one of the weaker ones, but yeah. On top of that, we're playing Unicorn Phoenix. Artemis is a card you have to have in the extra deck. You have to play this at 1. The reason why is this makes any Shaddoll, any 2 Shadolls plus any of your fusions into Construct and get your main combos going. So yeah, you definitely need at least one of this in the extra deck. Artemis is really, really good. You want to play it. You normal summon a Shaddoll, make Artemis, and then fuse with your other Shaddoll and the Artemis and make Construct. Very good. And then Gravity Control is really good in this deck because Gravity Control allows us to link the Construct and the EMZ in order to get back Schism to our hand. So the main combo line that you need to know is that, let's say you open up Relona. You're going to activate Relona. Relona searches your Magistus Invocation. You fuse off on a Shadow and hand. Make Construct and the EMZ. Very important. Then you're going to activate Construct, send Schism, or sometimes Squamata, depending on what you fuse. If you fuse Squamata, then you'll send Squamata. But send Squamata, then send Schism. Link off the Construct and the Gravity Controller, and then add back the Schism for a win to play on the next turn with the Miracle Fusion. Now, what's also important to know about Gravity Controller is it cannot be destroyed in battle by anything in the main monster zone. So your opponent doesn't read that, then you can get some advantage off of that. Also, at the start of the damage step, if it battles a monster in the extra monster zone, you can return this card, that monster, and bolt this card to the extra deck. So if it battles Yubel, you can attempt to return a Yubel. This could return Kluger. Not Yubel. If it has Kluger in the EMZ, if Kluger's in the extra monster zone and they don't know, then you summon Gravity Control, and Gravity Control battles the Kluger, and it bounces it, so they don't float. So very good. Excuse me. With that being said, let's get into some replays. Let's go. Okay. right, those were some insane replays. We beat Lie Twin, as you saw, going second. The one I went against Tendy, I made a whoopsie of a misplay. I forgot that Schism at that point. Remember when I said can't attack directly? So that's something you need to know. Obviously, a lot of replays there. If you want to see this deck hit cog, make sure 7:30, 8 p.m. tonight, you are here on YouTube. Be there and be square because we are cogging with Shaddoll tonight. Tomorrow we're going to do a Grand Prix run, and it might be... And it might be with Shaddoll. So we might be cogging with... we might be bringing Shaddoll to the Grand Prix tomorrow. Yeah, and if you enjoy it, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, follow me on Twitch for more content, for more Duel Links content. And yeah, until next time, this is your boy, Sean Matrai, signing out. Peace. Bye, YouTube. Bye, Twitch.